love my life, and I think Tom does too. And so to let go of that is really something to think about.
For more than 50 years, Tom Oar and his wife Nancy survived Montana's unforgiving Yaak River Valley, building a life from nothing. Since Mountain Men premiered in 2012, millions have watched them brave brutal winters, check traplines, and tan hides using techniques that haven't changed in centuries. Now, at 82, Tom has delivered a message so raw, so heartbreaking, it has fans questioning everything. What did he say to the woman who stood by his side through it all? And could this really be the final chapter of their legendary story? Join us as we reveal Tom Oar's emotional goodbye message to his wife, a love forged in the wilderness. Tom Oar's relationship with his wife Nancy is unlike any romance you'll see in modern America. Their love story started in a different era, when Tom was a young rodeo rider with a wild spirit, and Nancy was a woman willing to bet her future on a man who dreamed of living far from civilization. Their partnership, spanning over 5 decades, has been tested by physical hardship and the relentless challenges that accompanied living in the mountains. When Tom and Nancy first decided to leave conventional society behind in the 1970s, they were making a choice that most people considered crazy. Tom had spent years on the rodeo circuit, traveling from town to town, living out of his truck, and risking his body for prize money. But the rodeo life was wearing him down physically, and he yearned for something entirely different. He yearned for a life that is more connected to nature, self-sufficient, and free from the constraints of modern society. Nancy could have chosen a comfortable suburban existence with someone else, but instead, she chose Tom and the uncertain life he offered. Their early years in the Yaak River Valley were brutally difficult. They built their cabin by hand, learning several traditional skills from older trappers and mountain men who still remembered the old ways. Tom taught himself leatherwork, tanning hides using brain tanning methods that dated back centuries. Nancy learned how to preserve food, manage their limited resources, and cope with months of isolation when winter snows made the journey to the nearest town nearly impossible. The isolation they experienced together created an intensity in their relationship that few modern couples could understand. For months at a time, they were literally the only people in each other's lives. This could either strengthen a partnership or destroy it. There was no middle ground. For Tom and Nancy, the isolation deepened their connection, creating a bond that viewers recognized as something rare and precious in our fragmented modern world. The intensity of their isolated life not only shaped their bond, but also caught the attention of those who lived outside the wilderness. Could the very authenticity that deepened their connection also be what would soon draw millions of viewers to their extraordinary story? The television fame they never sought. When Tom and Nancy Oar were contacted by the History Channel through a friend of theirs who worked as a producer representative, they were stunned. Their friend, who operates Linehan Outfitting Company, recognized that Tom and Nancy's authentic wilderness lifestyle would make compelling television that would attract millions of viewers. The couple hadn't sought fame or attention. They were simply living the life they'd chosen, unaware that their daily routines would soon fascinate millions of viewers. When Mountain Men first premiered on the History Channel in 2012, viewers were introduced to a handful of individuals who had chosen a life off the grid. Among them, Tom Oar quickly stood out for his quiet, capable way of working with nature instead of against it. Tom became the emotional anchor of the series. Whether he was tanning hides, snowshoeing through heavy drifts, checking traplines in sub-zero temperatures, or simply sitting by the fire with Nancy, his scenes radiated authenticity that reality television rarely captures. According to the History Channel's official description, Tom Oar has lived in the remote Yaak Valley of northwest Montana for almost half a century, far removed from the hustle of modern life. With Nancy by his side, he makes his living by trapping, tanning hides, and creating unique primitive crafts from materials found in nature. They live in the same log cabin they built by hand more than 40 years ago and have no intention of ever leaving. The show's success brought unexpected consequences. Tom revealed that he and Nancy had around 300 people visit them at their house during one summer to take pictures and shake their hand. For a man who values solitude and privacy, having hundreds of strangers show up at his remote cabin represented a profound invasion. While Tom was gracious to fans, the attention fundamentally changed the isolation that had attracted him to Yaak Valley in the first place. While Tom and Nancy remain a part of the Mountain Men cast, another factor in their consideration to leave the series has been an increasing lack of privacy due to Mountain Men's popularity. Living 4 miles from the British Columbia border and about 15 miles east of the Idaho Panhandle in the middle of the Kootenai National Forest, used to guarantee anonymity. Television fame destroyed that anonymity completely. Yet Tom and Nancy continued appearing on the show season after season, becoming its most beloved and enduring presence. Tom Oar is the only original cast member to have been featured on every single season of the show. Eustace Conway hung up his television career after season 12, and Marty Maiorato took time off for seasons 9 through 12 before returning in 2024 for season 13. Only Tom remained constant, the living link to Mountain Men's origins and the embodiment of everything the show claimed to represent. Viewers watched Tom and Nancy age on screen across 14 seasons. They saw Tom's hair turn from dark to white, saw the lines deepen in his weathered face, and noticed him moving slightly slower as winters accumulated. But they also saw a marriage that never wavered, a partnership that grew stronger rather than weaker under conditions that would destroy most relationships. But as the years accumulated and Tom entered his 80s, would age and physical limitations force difficult conversations about their future? The warning signs nobody wanted to see. Long before Tom's emotional message, viewers of Mountain Men noticed subtle changes that suggested the Oars were struggling with the realities of aging in one of America's most remote locations. Tom's movements slowed and became more deliberate. Tasks that he once completed with ease now required more time and visible effort. His face, weathered by decades of mountain weather, showed not just the marks of sun and wind, but the deeper fatigue of a body that had worked hard for 8 decades. Nancy's health challenges were more explicitly discussed on the show. She had experienced serious medical issues that required hospital care, a logistical nightmare when you live hours from the nearest medical facility on roads that become impassable during winter. These health scares forced both Tom and Nancy to confront uncomfortable questions about whether their remote lifestyle was still sustainable or had become actively dangerous as their bodies failed to keep up with the demands of wilderness living. The physical demands of their lifestyle hadn't diminished, even as their capacity to meet them decreased. Firewood still needed to be cut, split, and stacked. Water still needed to be hauled. Game still needed to be hunted, processed, and preserved. The garden still needed tending. The equipment still requires maintenance. Winter still brought temperatures that could kill an unprepared or injured person within hours. These realities don't care about age, arthritis, or diminished strength. Tom's emotional state also shifted in ways that attentive viewers noticed. There were moments of reflection on the show when he would pause mid-task and stare out at the mountains, his expression suggesting he was contemplating endings rather than new beginnings. His comments about the changing seasons took on a melancholic tone, as if he was counting them now, wondering how many more he would experience in this place he loved so deeply. The couple's adult children had been expressing concerns for years about their parents' safety and well-being. Living so remotely in their advanced age meant that a simple accident, a fall, a broken bone, a sudden illness, could prove fatal if help couldn't arrive in time. The risk calculation that made sense when they were in their 40s and 50s became increasingly difficult to justify as they entered their 70s and then 80s. Family pressure to move closer to civilization grew more insistent with each passing year. The emotional toll of watching their way of life become unsustainable was visible in both Tom and Nancy. They had built something rare and precious in the Yaak Valley, a life lived on their own terms, connected to the land and seasons in ways that most Americans can't imagine. The prospect of leaving represented not just a change of address, but the death of an identity they had spent 50 years building. This wasn't just about finding a new place to live. It was about accepting that an entire chapter of life was ending. Financial realities also played a role in the changing circumstances. While mountain men provided some income, Tom and Nancy's lifestyle had never been about accumulating wealth. They had little in terms of traditional retirement savings or investments. The question of how to fund their later years, potentially including expensive medical care, created practical pressures that made staying in their remote cabin increasingly untenable, regardless of their emotional attachment to the location. The wilderness itself seemed to be sending messages that their time was running out. The isolation that had once seemed like freedom began feeling more like vulnerability. All these warning signs pointed to an inevitable conclusion that fans dreaded, but when Tom finally addressed the situation directly with a message to Nancy, the raw emotion caught everyone off guard. What did he say? And why did it hit so hard? "We can't keep doing this forever." The words that have resonated most deeply with Mountain Men fans came during an interview with American Cowboy magazine, when Tom spoke with brutal honesty about aging and mortality. "Yeah, I'm 70 years old. It takes 8 or 9 cords of wood to keep this place warm," Tom said. "It's just Nancy and me and an old Dodge pickup and 30-foot chain. We can't keep doing this forever. I keep telling Nancy, one of these days you'll probably just find me stretched out dead over the fleshing block." What seemed like a rather offhanded, bleak comment almost became a prediction. In episode 4 of season 11, Tom had a health scare after waking up in the middle of the night because of difficulty breathing. The moment terrified viewers who had watched Tom for years. Suddenly, his joke about dying over the fleshing block didn't seem funny anymore. In 2022, during Mountain Men Season 11, Tom shared that he was managing heart health challenges. In the episodes Heart and Soul and Edge of Darkness, he addressed these concerns while continuing his trapping and craftsmanship, adapting his activities to accommodate his health. The health scare forced both Tom and viewers to confront what everyone had known intellectually but tried to ignore emotionally. Tom Oar is mortal, and wilderness living at 80-plus years old carries risks that even the most skilled mountain man can't completely mitigate. For Nancy, watching Tom struggle with health issues while living 50 miles from the nearest hospital must have been terrifying. The isolation that makes Yaak Valley perfect for their lifestyle also means that medical emergencies could turn deadly before help arrives. Every winter when heavy snows make roads impassable, every time Tom goes out to check traplines alone, every health scare in the middle of the night, all of it weighs on Nancy, who has invested over 50 years in this partnership and this life. Tom's children from his first marriage, particularly son Chad, have appeared on Mountain Men, encouraging their father to consider moving to Florida for a more comfortable lifestyle. The warm climate, proximity to family, access to medical care, and elimination of the brutal physical labor required to survive Montana winters all make logical sense. Tom's daughter Keely sadly passed away on April 26, 2015 in St. Petersburg, Florida, at the age of 49, a tragedy that surely reinforced Chad's desire to have his father closer to family as Tom ages. In 2019, it was speculated that Tom, who had become the most lovable star of the series, was leaving the show to retire to Florida. Rumors spread among fans that the end had come, until Nancy declared that it was all rumors and they weren't going anywhere in June 2019. Tom was only vacationing for the winter, not abandoning the life he and Nancy had built. Tom, however, chose to remain in Montana, once stating, "I was born 100 years too late, or maybe 200 years too late," capturing the essence of why leaving Yaak Valley feels impossible, despite the logical arguments for doing so. But staying in Montana means accepting the reality Tom voiced to Nancy. One of them will likely die there, perhaps suddenly, perhaps while working. The fleshing block comment was Tom acknowledging to his wife that he might not get a peaceful hospital death surrounded by family. He might simply not come back from checking traplines one day, or collapse while splitting wood, or have a heart attack while tanning a hide. For Nancy, hearing her husband casually mention finding him stretched out dead must carry enormous emotional weight. She has invested over 50 years in this partnership, built a life in isolation with this man, and now faces the possibility of being alone in that wilderness. The very isolation that makes Yaak Valley perfect also means that if something happens to Tom, Nancy will be truly alone in a way that city dwellers can never understand. But would Tom's health force decisions that love alone couldn't resolve? The final chapter. On August 4th, 2025, the History Channel made it official. Mountain Men Season 14 premieres Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time/Pacific Time. For fans, the date alone was enough to start counting down, but the announcement came with a headline that shook the core of the fan base. Tom Oar, the last original cast member from the debut season in 2012, will make his final appearance as a regular. The news instantly rippled through social media groups, online forums, and fan pages, sparking both excitement for the new season and nostalgia for the man who became the face of the series. The History Channel's press release stated, "For 81-year-old icon Tom Oar, this season could mark the moment he decides whether to keep going or hand off the torch," the season's description reads. Legacies hang in the balance as each mountain man confronts a defining crossroads. In a teaser for the new season, Tom hints at his exit by stating, "It's hard to quit anything that you really like to do," his voice carrying the weight of someone saying goodbye to more than just a television show, but to a chapter of life itself. That single sentence captures Tom's internal struggle. He genuinely loves this life, genuinely wants to continue trapping and tanning and living off the land with Nancy. But love and want don't overcome the physical realities of being 82 years old in one of America's harshest environments. Season 13 unfolded almost like a carefully crafted prologue to this goodbye. In Apex Predator, Tom joined friends Sean and 11-year-old Hank McAfee for a beaver trapping expedition on Montana's Kootenai River. From the vantage of a drift boat, he guided Hank through spotting active lodges, setting both foothold and conibear traps, and using scent glands for bait, lessons that paid off with 3 beavers, 2 weighing nearly 40 pounds. The episode wasn't just about catching beavers. It was about Tom passing knowledge to the next generation, teaching an 11-year-old boy skills that humans have used for thousands of years, but that are rapidly disappearing from modern America. Tom was doing what his grandfather had done for him, preserving a tradition by handing it to someone young enough to carry it forward. In Chasing the Ghost, Tom ventured deep into the backcountry with wolf specialist Paul Antchak, sharing his clean skinning method for beaver hides and helping secure a rare large male wolf. In Depth Charge, Tom and Nancy put their craftsmanship to work for a cause, creating a custom elk leg hunting bag and beaver tooth necklace for a local cancer charity auction. These season 13 episodes revealed Tom and Nancy's values, teaching the next generation, preserving traditional skills, contributing to their community, and using their expertise for causes beyond themselves. Even as Tom contemplates stepping away from television, he and Nancy continue living with purpose and meaning. At 82, Tom Oar still holds his ground in Montana's Yaak River Valley, where he and Nancy live in the hand-built log home that has sheltered them for decades. Season 14 promises to show Tom making decisions about his future, while new cast members represent the show's next chapter. Newcomers, Chance and Soraya Painter, both just 28, begin carving out a homestead in remote Alaskan bush country with 3 small children, their story echoing Tom and Nancy's journey from decades earlier. Tom's exit closes a chapter that began when Mountain Men first aired, while the Painters' arrival opens a new one filled with uncertainty, trial, and discovery. Which aspect of Tom and Nancy's story do you find most inspiring? Do you think stepping away from Mountain Men after season 14 is the right decision for Tom at age 82? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.